The House is currently debating the report for approval. Let's go live to the House now. Majority Leader Oseche Mensah Bonsu is taking his turn at the debate.
People know what they want to do. Mr. Speaker, clearly what the EC is doing finds expression in the law, and the Subsidiary Legislation Committee has not succeeded in telling this House that they've gone outside their remit, and because of that, Mr. Speaker, I want that to resist this attempt to force this House to annul the instrument that the Electoral Commission has brought to this House. Mr. Speaker, that conclusion by some minority members has no legs to stand on, and we must dismiss it, and accordingly the Speaker allow the instrument to indeed begin operationalization by the close of this day. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
So you saw there, excerpts of the ongoing debate on the CI, on the report of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament, which has just been passed by a majority. Let's go live on the line, and correspondent Joseph Opoku-Kapo joins us with details on the debate. Joseph, it was expected that the House would be divided on this, but what are some of the arguments both sides have been advancing?
For example, the minority leader, Harry Idrisu, says allowing the CI to mature will disenfranchise a lot of Ghanaians, which he thinks will be a threat to the nation's democracy. And he went on to make the point that they, the minority, will be voting against it when eventually the House begins to vote. In fact, that's expected any moment from now. Now that the debate has been concluded, instead of the regular voice vote, which eventually leads to an approval of any item that's brought to the floor, Harry Idrisu indicated that they, the minority MPs, will request for the casting of votes, which is expected to then subsequently take some time. As you can hear in the background, the bell is being rung for a lot more MPs to show up, because what is clear is that the minority is taking this to the very extreme as they would want it. And most likely a vote by individual MPs is expected on the floor any moment from now. The minority MPs say that the CI actually is a flout of a previous directive by the Supreme Court, which they say indicated that although the NHIA cannot be used as a source document to get into the register, the Supreme Court eventually gave the green light that the driver's license and other cards can be used. And so that is something that they will continue to object to. They also think that this particular CI will actually will not allow for a situation where Ghanaians will be safe, because COVID-19 is around the corner, and so Ghanaians shouldn't be stepping out to register to get into a new voters register around this time. Those are some of the arguments that they've been advancing. A while ago, the vote was taken, and even after the voice vote, the minority are asking for a head count in terms of the vote before the eventual approval.
And Gakpo, even before the House approved the report on the CI, some of the minority MPs were calling for the withdrawal of the CI. What has been the reaction of the Speaker and the majority side?
for the Speaker, he's been asking that they stick to the debate on whether the CI should be approved or otherwise, because that's the issue that's currently before the House, and urging them to avoid any extraneous debates as far as the issues having to do with the CI are concerned. For those on the majority side, Chairman Sabuntu was making an argument that if anyone is saying because of COVID-19, a new register shouldn't be compiled, then that also makes a case to say when it comes to voting in December 2020, that should not be happening. And he was daring the minority to move a motion to allow for the president's mandate to be extended, even in the light of issues having to do with COVID-19. Patrick Yabuama, who is an NPP MP, makes the argument that the register as it exists now is cancerous, and that you don't cure cancer with a paracetamol. You deal with the very heart of the matter, which is why a brand new register is actually needed. And Obi Amwa, who is also an NPP MP, says that the CI, this is something that the minority have supported in the past, so he doesn't understand why they are changing their positions now. Those have been some of the arguments, even as the House debated the approval of this particular report by the Subsidiary Legislation Committee.
All right, thank you very much. That's parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gappo with details from the ongoings in Parliament right now. And the news is that Parliament has approved the report of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee on their report. They've approved the report on the CI, which gives this EC the go-ahead to compile the new voters register. Well, legal practitioner Martin Pebu joins us via phone for some perspective on this. Many thanks for your time. What's the legal ramification to what just happened in Parliament?
Well, Alaba, the starting rule is that the Supreme Court itself usually acknowledges that Parliament is master of its own procedure, okay? And so usually the court doesn't go too much into how Parliament works. But the court usually look at the end product. And so the end product is the CI. If the CI matures and becomes law, it still would not be implemented because currently there's a case in the Supreme Court in which the opposition NDC is challenging the constitutionality of the EC Act of compiling a new voters register. And as part of the case, this particular CI is very pivotal to that case in court. So,
indeed, I was going to ask you about that what bearing does this have on the case in court?
Yeah, this is actually the fulcrum. This is the link thing around which the case in court revolves.
Right.
So because of that, and the EC in the past has shown their due respect to the Supreme Court. If a matter is pending in the court, they usually don't run ahead of themselves. So going by precedent, one would expect that they are not going to start doing anything ahead of the Supreme Court decision. So they would wait for the Supreme Court to finally pronounce on the constitutionality or otherwise of the new voters register they are going to compile. And as part of the compilation, they will need this law to be able to determine who can come in and register or not.
Right, Mr. We'll just stay on the line for us for a few minutes and just give our viewers some insight into this matter which has ended up at the Supreme Court. Well, the existing voter register, which was compiled in 2012 and revised since by limited registration exercise, has been held by the court as not being reasonably credible. This is according to the EC. By implication, the cards issued pursuant to it are also not reasonably credible. In respect of the cards issued pursuant to CI 12, the EC has found that those voter identification cards were issued without any form of identification at all. This displaces the credibility of the voter's ID. The EC also found a fundamental omission in its training manual and the manner in which the voter registration exercise was carried out in 2012, partly in breach of its own binding CI 72 and also in breach of Article 42 of the Constitution. The Commission wants a break from the past to remedy all the carried on ineligibilities, excesses and breaches of Article 42 as the existing cards have become fruits of a poison tree. It will be in continuous breach of Article 42 of the Constitution to totally disregard this Honourable Court's own judgment to continue using the existing cards, and is still in contravention of Section 8(1) of Act 750 as amended for the EC to accept the existing voter identification cards as a means of proving citizenship for the compilation of the new register. So, Mr. Kpebu, that's the argument being advanced by the Electoral Commission to the Apex Court. A quick reaction to the EC's justification, sir.
Well, you know, because it's in court, we can't go into the merits.
Right.
So I can't say that, oh, this is very good and convincing, or otherwise. I'm not allowed to say that. I can only make comments based on past precedents and the rest. So the comment number one is that, you know, in the Ramadan case, the Supreme Court itself stated that the voter's card is usually prima facie evidence of citizenship. And because we've used it in the past, it's kind of gained some acceptance, to say the least. So it's quite a very difficult task, very daunting to say today that the old voters register cannot be. It's quite a challenge. But as I said, I'm not able to comment directly on the EC's defense. I can only speak on the precedent, because in the Ramadan case, those are some of the arguments that came up. But Supreme Court looked at it and said, look, to acquire a voter's ID is no joke. And to the extent that we use same over the period, it's prima facie evidence. You see? And then, so this, if I may bring in social commentary a bit, remember President Ford's comment too. So you see that when something is been accepted and used over time, and all of a sudden you want to throw it out of the window, it's quite a challenge. It's really, really quite a challenge. And don't forget, especially in the midst of this COVID-19, where a lot of us are really apprehensive about going to re-register, it's even making it more difficult, because I can't foresee how I'm going to go out there and re-register for this election. There's no way. No. And there are a lot of people who share this sentiment.
Very well. I'm very grateful for your time. That's lawyer Martin Kpebu there with his thoughts on proceedings in Parliament, as well as the EC's argument that it advanced in court, at the Supreme Court to be specific.